Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next talk. This is Kari Halsted. Kari lives in Saskatoon in Midwestern Canada. It might be snowing there right now. She likes to run long distances, play backgammon, and read fiction and memoirs, presumably all at the same time. She's nearsighted in one eye and farsighted in the other. With great big engineering org, itty bitty docs team. Please welcome somebody who both knows my pain of incredibly cold Canadian weather and has evidently mastered the art of the fun fact. Kari Halsted, thanks.
Thank you. Hello, and welcome to my talk. Yes, that is an Aladdin reference. Thank you for asking. This is me. That's not Saskatchewan. That would be Chile, and that's approximately where I live. I am a technical writer and have been for almost all of my almost 30-year career. I am currently at a company called Datadog, which is headquartered in New York. I work remotely. Previously, I have worked for Puppet, which is here in Portland, and IBM, which is everywhere. So what is Datadog? Datadog is a monitoring and analytics platform that helps companies improve the observability of their infrastructure and applications. Doesn't matter for this talk. But Datadog has tens of thousands of customers operating millions of hosts that send tens of trillions of events every day. Our product and engineering teams are adding dozens of features each month and additional products seemingly all the time. This is the technical writing team for Datadog. There are 12 of us. That is a key number. We're spread across North America. We have a variety of professional backgrounds, and we mostly work remote, although a few people are also working out of Datadog offices. And we're hiring, in case you're interested. Okay, so this is what we produce. This is the landing page of our doc site. It is located at that URL if you are interested, but this is basically what that team of 12 people build. All right, so this talk is titled Great Big Engineering Org, Itty Bitty Docs Team, and I'm going to talk for a few minutes about ratios. This is stuff that I talked about in the abstract for my talk if you read it. But I think we can all agree that general wisdom is that for one technical writer, it makes sense to have you working with about 10, maybe 15 engineers, about the number of people on this screen for each technical writer. You could cover 2 Scrum teams or something like that. In reality, most of us are working with many, many more software developers than that. The US Bureau of Labor and Statistics said in 2021 there were 30 software engineers for every 1 technical writer in the country. At Datadog, my team of 12 technical writers works with well over 2,000 software developers, people in product and engineering every day. Now, it's not really fair to say that all of those engineers produce or generate work for the docs team. Some of them definitely don't. And there is certainly a core set of them that we work more with than others, product managers, team leads, things like that. And then to a varying degree, we get information from other engineers, and some probably not at all, depending on what their role in the company is. But it's also not fair to say that those are the only people we get information and feedback for our documentation site from. So we do have other sources of information, many. Customers, users, the open source community, ourselves, our translators. There are lots and lots of people who have input, feedback, and just opinions about our doc site. It can be overwhelming. However, we have found ways to be a very productive team. We have to be productive to keep up in an organization of this scale. We have to be awesome to respond to an organization that's that big. I'm not just trying to boast here. Our goal isn't to have amazing GitHub tiles and fantastic feedback and graphs. That's just a side effect of the things we have to do to keep up with engineering. It's also really gratifying to look at my GitHub tile report for the last year, because it's pretty cool. All right, so where does this productivity start? It starts with a fundamental worldview or mindset that I've adopted and I think is core to how all of the documentation team works. And that is that the docs definitely do have wrong, hard to find, and missing information. They do. We spend 0% defending that or arguing with it, and 100% of our energy working to address it. Sometimes I'll get usually a new to the company product manager or engineer who approaches the docs team with an idea, and they start out with an argument that, did you know the docs are wrong? Like, I don't wish to offend you or anything, but like, I think we could do this. And it's like, yeah, please get to the meat of what you think we should do, because I'm not going to defend the doc site. All right, so how do we, so that's the mindset that we go into every conversation with. How do we build the productivity it takes to keep up, like once they do get to telling us what they think the doc site needs? I'm going to talk about each of these 5 aspects of our productivity strategy, I guess you would call it. Some of them are conscious choices we make. Sometimes they are things that were decided by the lone writer or writers who started back 7-10 years ago when the company was new and we were just standing on the shoulders of giants. But I'll talk through each one of these things. Actually, there is a 0th item in that list, and that is luck. I am not going to deny that it helps that we work for basically an automation company who prioritizes gathering data and using it to make decisions. We're a growing startup, very productive. I mean, we're not a startup anymore, but we're growing, very financially stable, highly profitable, and we're documenting a software as a service, which, as you all know, is much easier to document than a versioned product. So not everyone finds themselves in this position, but I hope even if not all of this applies to your context, that you're able to take away a few sort of tips that you can apply to make your life better. All right. Number 1, docs as code. We at Datadog do docs as code as hard as we can. One of the great things at Datadog is that we have a fabulous websites team, the team that administers our docs site, and we work to foster that relationship, and there are very smart people who understand our users and the writers' needs. And all the way down to we have an edit button on almost every docs page, so which takes you right to the source and lets you submit a change request for it. Our doc site, as I said, we do docs as code. We've got over 5,000 pages in Markdown mostly, almost 4,000 images. They live in multiple GitHub repos, most of which are open source. The primary documentation repo is certainly open source. And then we have a static site generator build that generates the doc site out of it. We have a developer-like toolchain. We do automation as much as possible. We lint, we send notifications from the build when it finishes, or if there's broken links in it. We single source, we generate a bunch of docs from code or from specs, and we do a lot of content reuse. We do a lot of the things that Daniel was talking about yesterday in making documentation future-proof, like making your docs last through multiple changes without having to rewrite sentences. We try to be strategic in where we use screen captures. I think we probably don't do visuals quite as well as some of the things Caitlin was talking about this morning, but there's always room for our improvement. Secondly, we really prioritize focus for writers, making sure that writers have the ability to execute in their daily tasks. So I like to describe how our writers' skills and responsibilities are T-shaped. Everybody has the ability and the access and the they're encouraged to make changes to any part of the doc site. We don't have strong ownership roles, but each person also has a specialty that they can go deep into. So there are certain parts of the product that I understand better than someone else, and they understand better than I do, so they're a good default person for certain pieces of work to go to. We have hands-on managers. Most of our first-line managers are also in the docs every day as well, so they have a very keen understanding of what the writer's day-to-day work is like. We do team rituals like planning, stand-up, demos. It gives us all a sense of rhythm and routine that is good for providing structure to our lives that makes being productive easier. As you are likely well aware, when you have thousands of stakeholders in your documentation, input can come from a lot of different directions, and we make sure that they get funneled into one of two places. All of the input coming when we're maintaining our boundaries well, either goes into Jira or it goes into GitHub. You're either creating a card so it can be tracked and added to the backlog and assigned to a writer and eventually done, or you're submitting the change request directly in GitHub, and we review those every day and merge them as quickly as possible. And then we have what we call on-call. On-call is not, at Datadog documentation, on-call is not like 24/7 support. What it really means is we have one point person each day. They do interrupt handling. So one person from the team each day is responsible for answering questions in our internal Slack, reviewing all incoming PRs, also changing any of those PRs that might look large into Jira cards, and generally handling all the busy work that is coming in constantly from everywhere. That lets everybody else focus on their heavy writing tasks. It lets everybody else take vacation time. It's great. On-call also breeds trust and mutual understanding amongst the writers. It gives us the ability to back each other up. There's no part of the docs that is unfamiliar to anybody. We all get our hands in all of it. And it provides continuous on-the-job training for all of us. All right, the third point that helps us stay very, very productive is that we have standards. These standards are sort of high standards, but they're kind of loosely held standards, and I'll explain what I mean. We have a fairly minimal style guide. It's kind of, we do a lot of things by instinct, and then if it becomes a problem, we write it down and try to enforce it using Veil if we can, but otherwise by manual editing. We have a nice, clear understanding of what makes for good documentation. So we know when somebody comes to us and says, hey, I think I have an idea for the docs, it needs to fit these criteria. Otherwise, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a company blog post, or maybe it's a support knowledge base article, or maybe it's something for their personal blog. But if it meets these criteria, yeah, we can consider it as an addition to the doc site. So we use these standards as guide rails, not hurdles. They're to help, having these standards helps move work forward. It's not gatekeeping people making updates to the docs. Fourth, we really try hard to foster a docs matter mindset within the company. Sometimes people ask me, Kari, what's an important KPI for documentation? My answer to that is your support team using your public documentation, or are they creating a shadow set of docs that has the right answers? And forgetting to get those back into your doc site. If your support team collects all the correct answers without telling you there's mistakes in the docs, that's a problem. So we work hard with support to make sure that anytime they have a valid piece of feedback for the documentation that we prioritize that and get that in. They aren't our primary user of the doc site, but they are an important secondary audience for our doc site. Secondly, there's a few relationships that we spend a lot of effort and energy on. One is customer-facing sales engineers and support engineers. They are constantly in the docs, using them, improving them. Those are the people we will make an exception for. Hey, have you created a Jira card for that? Because we know that they are super stressed out every day. And if they say, hey, this is wrong, we're like, yeah, let's fix that as quickly as possible. The second group of people we work really hard to maintain relationships with are product managers. They often are writing the first draft of documentation, and a lot of our writers spend time even teaching them GitHub skills so that they can more quickly get the updates they want into the documentation, teaching them how to use the little edit button in a PR so that they can get their feedback directly in. Making product managers' jobs easier is something we spend time and energy on. And then the third set of people that we really work on relating or having a good relationship with is people who just randomly contribute to the documentation, whether it's a back-end engineer who happens to notice a mistake, or it's a customer. Maybe sometimes we see things, it's somebody's first GitHub pull request and they've made it to our docs. Like, even if we reject that pull request, we are going to be as nice as possible to that person because that is absolutely a gift. And we love getting that. So treating people who come to the docs and make contributions to it as well as possible is super important to us. So fifth productivity tip, or whatever this is, building a strong, resilient team. We at Datadog hire mid-career writers, people who just love to ship docs, and people who believe that perfect is the enemy of done. People who don't sweat too much if their first crack at the docs isn't perfect. They know that updating it is simple enough to do, and they're okay with hearing that they made a mistake the first time. One of the ways we have had a lot of success internally in hiring well-qualified mid-career writers is through an embed program, which enables support engineers who work for Datadog already, who understand our product and our company, but who are maybe burning out a little bit, or who aren't sure that support is good for the right thing for them, or have just been in it for a while and are looking for a change. If they want to find out what it's like to be a Datadog docs person, they can embed with our team for 3 weeks. We give them a project. We teach them all about our standards and our processes, and they come to our rituals, and they're a team member for 3 weeks. And if at the end of that they want to join our team and we want them to join our team, it's the fastest and easiest way to hire writers. They come with built-in knowledge, deep product technical knowledge, and they're just excited to work in a job that's super productive and where feedback isn't coming in from angry customers all the time. We're remote first. We're in-office friendly. It gives our writers a lot of flexibility in how they manage their work-life balance. Datadog happens to have unlimited PTO policy. We make sure that gets used. Managers are constantly watching to make sure that people are taking the time off that they need. And like I said, we don't worry too much about who will cover who when they're out, because there's always more than one person who knows how to do any given thing on the team. And once a quarter, we have hack days where writers get to spend 3 days working on side projects or routine maintenance that they aren't getting around to, or passion projects. It doesn't even have to be related to documentation or Datadog, but those are pretty fun and we all look forward to them. So to sum up, to be as productive as possible, relationships matter. Work really hard to ensure that every interaction with your team feels productive to people. Anybody who comes and asks for something feels like it's been a rewarding exchange of thought. Secondly, use your boundaries or your standards as guardrails, not hurdles. Make sure that things keep moving forward and that bars you set aren't getting in the way of things getting better. Third, say yes to the things that support your needs and goals as a documentation team. Know your thing and do it, and don't do the things that aren't your thing. But finally, of course, my number one productivity tip. This is the truth that you need to accept, but you don't have to like it. Your docs have wrong, hard to find, and missing information. So make sure you're spending 0 energy denying that and 100% of your energy addressing it. And that is my productivity tip. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. I don't know if you've ever seen the Slack channel for loan writers, but I think a lot of us were just, show us your ways. There's a lot of panic and despair, I think, when you don't know what to do with that sort of developer to tech writer ratio. And I think a lot of people were really interested in getting some hope from your talk.
Yeah, I mean, we are 12 people. It's not as itty-bitty as 1. And I think as was said this morning by somebody, like 2 is better than 1. Like 1 is hard.
It is. Ask me how I know. I think that a lot of people wonder whether the solution to this is more structure for process, exactly what you were talking about, the things that you can optimize and do better, as opposed to, just pushing for more resources. And so I'm interested, just as a general background piece of information, did it just end up this way that your team is so itty-bitty? Is it like that for a reason and you don't want to change it? Could you just talk about the background?
So some background, Docs was handled by our community and evangelism team for quite a while before they hired a first loan writer, probably 7 years ago. And so we're closely tied with people who are interacting with our developer and open source community a lot. We're still in the same small organization as those folks. I think there's something about the way we have things set up that I wouldn't want to have a 1:30 ratio or a 30:1 ratio yet. I think we're clipping along and our processes work well for us. I will say that one of the things that we use, because we have everything in one of 2 places, GitHub and it's going in, or Jira and it's in a backlog, and we're slowly working through those things, is the Jira backlog. I know my manager uses it as a gauge or as proof when she does go to her higher-ups to ask for more headcount. So having something that shows how much work you're not getting to, and here are the important things that aren't getting done, management, that is something she uses to help us grow. But We're never going to be, at this point, we're never going to get to 30:1. Like, we couldn't. You couldn't hire that many people.
Right. Do you, somebody was asking for advice for people who are feeling like they're drowning in that situation. I know you covered a lot of action items, but just to take the worst of the problem off, what would you say to people who are in that position?
Here's what I would say. The billionaires are going to be fine. Like, if you don't get to the bottom of your to-do list, it's going to be okay.
Won't somebody think of the billionaires?
I know, right? What if they need that thing that period changed to a comma or something. I don't know.
In the docs.
I don't know. You probably have an infinite stack of work, and each day go in, get a few things off the stack, move them along, and then go home. If you're swamped, that's better than having no work. And I don't mean being unemployed. I mean, I know there are people who are blocked in their work. And if you're blocked, that's actually harder than just having too much work. I'm not saying you don't have a real problem if you're swamped, but like focus on the things you can control, which is just getting a couple of things done each day.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. We had a lot of interest too in the on-call process. So one person was wondering, is it just the one person who's on call reviewing every PR for the day, or just on PRs from outside of the team? Just a little bit more information. Somebody else asked about what the tech writers do as opposed to the managers. So just maybe some insight on what your processes look like.
Yep. So our on call, the person is responsible for dispositioning every PR that is ready for review that day, meaning either they review it and merge it if it's ready to be merged, or like put it on hold if they haven't quite made the release yet, or they open a JIRA card saying somebody needs to take a closer look at this, or they close it because it's wrong. They just get it out of the this is ready to be reviewed and nobody's looked at it list. So yeah, most on-call days, it's somewhere between 12 and 40 PRs that a person would review or open a card for. Some days it gets a little busier than that. Some days it's a little quieter than that. But yes, that is what they do. Managers take slightly fewer on-call days, I think, than writers, or at least they're a little bit more tactical in when they go on call. Often they'll take holidays. So we have offices in Paris and North America and various other places. But if it's an American holiday, somebody will be on call on holiday mode, just so that if there's anybody in the Europe office who has questions, somebody is there to answer them. So sometimes managers will take those, not regular employees.
Mm-hmm. Great. The idea of a holiday on such a small team, I think that's the dream. Somebody asked a clarifying question. There was a mention of a support knowledge base that sounded like it was separate from the docs your team works on. Yeah, how does that split work?
I mean, the support team, the people emailing, chatting, phone calls with customers who are having problems with the product as they use it. Often it's very specific configuration or something on the customer side that doesn't apply broadly to all users of Datadog. So they're documenting the very specific troubleshooting things for themselves, for other support people to use.
Great, thank you. And to close things off, I think just a general question that I think struck a chord with a lot of people here. There's probably a lot of pressure on your team to maintain its high level of productivity. How does your team maintain that without burning out?
Yeah, I do want to make sure that I don't want to give the impression that I think productivity is high morality. Like it's helpful in business to be productive. It certainly makes me enjoy my job when I'm being productive, but that doesn't make me a good person. It doesn't even make my company a good company. I don't want to, this isn't glorifying productivity, other than to say, it feels good to me and the people on my team when we're productive. So if you go through phases, or if you're a person who doesn't identify with getting job satisfaction from having a super bright green GitHub tile, that's fine. My talk was not for you, and that's cool. Not everybody can do that all the time. And certainly none of us can. We do take PTO. It's so important to take time off. You cannot work through burnout. You have to stop working when you get burned out. And I think a highly productive company like Datadog, one that's demanding, I think that's why they do unlimited PTO, is because you're going to need it. You will need it. You can take time off, or your body will decide that you will get time off. And so yeah, I don't want to like say, hey, go out and be as productive as you can. Like, be productive if you want to be productive. Here's how. Yeah.
Thank you. That is such great perspective. I think it's really good to bring all of this back to just taking care of ourselves and looking out for each other. Thank 100%. You. Can't think of a better way to close off the Q&A. Thank you so much. Please give Kari another round of applause. So well earned. Such a great talk. Thank you.